Protoss player starts to the top left of the map. We have the all-kill of 2012. This is
LGIM Yonghua.
Impressive performance in game number 1 against Bung Bung. Now he's up against another Zerg player for Team AZUBU. Starting to the bottom right of Belcher Vestige, we have
AZUBU Violet.
Violet can get a little bit violent inside of his games. He's actually spawning almost violet colored, spawning as blue.
almost.
Not quite, but you know, he's got that violet flavor.
Yonghua already with a pylon down at the choke, moving out with the first probe, trying to find out if there's an early pull for Violet, and also, of course, trying to block a potential hatch first attempt.
This is one of the maps we saw the heavy Void Ray Colossus Immortal style develop on. People really figured out that all you need to do to beat that, though, is to make a lot of queens, because that kind of neutralizes both the Immortals and, of course, the Void Rays, and then you can use your Ultralisk for everything else. But I would love to see air on this map. We've seen air on this map a lot from Protoss players, if they can take that third base early on. And if Yonghua is comfortable with this style, I would like to see how he approaches it. And you know what's always really interesting about that type of style is usually it's pretty simple for the Protoss player to execute it. You know, you sit back, you turtle, you make no real mistakes, and you can easily get that composition up. But it's really difficult for the Zerg, and it's really puzzling sometimes as to how the Zerg player has to figure out how to deal with the composition and how it's constantly changing. You know, you don't want to make too many corruptors. Do you go into swarm hosts? I really like to watch that type of game develop, so I'm hoping we get to see some of that in this series.
Swarm hosts are definitely a unit that a lot of players still experiment with, where they're not quite sure about the exact timings and how to use them. Right now we have an opening with the Nexus first for Yonghua. He's letting his opponents expand for as long as possible. The Overlord will now get into a viewing range of the Forge.
Yes. There's that Forge. Speaking of which, Overlord sees it, and now he knows he's not dealing with any sort of weird gateway timings. He also knows it's a Nexus first. Really important to know. Some probe harassment here. Accidentally took the minerals though, so now he has to stop.
Okay, so we're heading now into an opening where the Overlord for Violet has seen everything. Violet knows that there's a Nexus first and then a Forge. And usually what you do against this is you start with your third base after all. I mentioned earlier that a lot of Zerg players try to change the timings a little bit and are a bit more keen on heading into a fast attack than taking the third base because of the aggressive style that Protoss has been showing lately. But with the style that we see for Yonghua, I would not be surprised at all to see Violet take the normal expand, and there it is.
Yeah, you're right. He also was able to chase this early way before he made it, but unfortunately, Yonghua's very pesky probe will come back and see it. You know, we saw Bung Bung do the opposite of this in Game 1. He went for a faster speed, but now upon scouting this, Violet goes for the fast third. This is going to give him a much better economy, just a little bit later of a tech.
The most important thing for Violet is also, of course, finding out what kind of tech choice Yonghua goes for, and then trying to have it circling over at the third base. You need to find out if your opponent goes for a third base or not. As soon as you see there's no third, there is going to be a two-base timing. And the most popular one these days is 2 Colossi with Immortals. And as soon as you see that coming your way, you need to react immediately. You need to get tech out. Tech is the only way that you have to defeat it. And usually it will see the Spire for a few Corruptors. But even with that, you have to have a good positioning, because those Colossi, they can do a lot of damage before the Corruptors finally set them.
It's all about the scout, you know. The faster you see it, the more time you have to react and make that proper tech choice. We have a Stargate going down at the natural, so it's hidden from the Overlords, probably going to be for Phoenix play.
And with a Stargate, there are so many things that a Zerg player can also do. We've seen Hydralisk timings, we've seen play that sent us completely around Swarm hosts, with Nidus, without. There is so much that you can do, but it's very hit and miss. There are a lot of things where you can just be completely overwhelmed by a Protoss opponent. So Violet, so far, what I've seen from him is relies on a very solid style and doesn't experiment too much. I didn't see him play with a lot of Swarm hosts in the games that he sent me. So we'll probably see just a very solid macro until play by him.
Yeah. There's the first Phoenix coming out, and he's probably going to just go ahead and send it over and kill the Overlord. He's not going to hide here. Violet attempts to scout at the natural, is denied, and also in the main base was not going to see anything with that second Overlord.
Violet gets a lot of Overlords here, by the way.
Yeah, he's knowing that the potential for losing several of them is there. He makes 2 extra ones, 2 spares, and a ton of drones going down. Very late gas by him.
Yeah, takes the... He has nothing else on the map now after the Zerglings died, so it's just droning up, waiting a little bit, trying to find out what's going on with his Overlord.
Oh, it looks like he's going to barely see the bottom of it. You know, I'm not 100% sure, though. I think he will see it.
Yeah, he should be able, and he
turned it.
Yeah, he changed the pathway of his Overlord. Sees now the Stargate, goes into the Roach One, and also adds the lair tag and speed. He knows what's coming now, and he is quite confident in his abilities here. Also added the additional evolution chamber.
Yeah. That was a really good scout by Violet. Very methodical going into that angle. He will lose all of his Overlords now, and he's going to be supply blocked temporarily, but he's smartly already queued up extra ones, even more extra ones now beyond this, and is pulling his Overlords back into the third base.
What we've seen also on this map is a very aggressive Roach and Zergling style, where you just try to attack your opponent over and over again with Lings and with Roaches, trying to deny him a third base while macroing up at home. And with Phoenixes, you don't have really all that much that you can do against Roaches and against Zerglings. That's a style that Life has been playing on this very map, so that's something that we could see here. And he's going into the speed for the Roaches.
Yeah.
Not necessarily what he has to play, though you always want to have a couple of Roaches handy.
And a very smart macro hatch, just like we saw Boom Boom do at the third base. This is a great way to keep that third base alive, and if it gets sniped, you know, you have that extra hatchery there, so you don't have to long as my. Whoa, did he just pick up an egg? Did that happen?
I don't think so.
I must be seeing things, but regardless, the robotic support may now going down, so he is going to hit. You know, he doesn't have to hit a timing with this, but he certainly could try to. It's up to him. He could just use that to take his third base.
Yeah, but usually when you take a third, you are trying to get the Twilight Council out a little bit faster. Since the unit's over and well with the Mothership Core, he still could pull it off. Lings are running in. They see that there is no Nexus just yet.
Yeah, but he looks poised to. One thing that's really interesting to know is he doesn't have +1 yet, so that may be why he skips the Twilight.
With the Harvest account, he's going to take this third base. I mean, he has 60 Harvests nearly, and there's the Nexus. So if you have this many Harvesters, you know that there's not going to be a 2-base timing. Yeah.
Picks off a few of those gas drones. Very annoying to replace. You gotta make sure that you just put your drones from your minerals back in there instead of just making drones a little bit more complicated.
Look how many of Roaches we already have in the main base. 25, 26. He's really going for this aggressive style that I mentioned earlier, where you try to just go out with your units. You know that your opponent's Colossus count at that point in time is going to be low, so that's what you're trying to exploit. Because the Phoenixes alone, what they're going to do, pick up a few Roaches and take them down. That costs them so much energy, they can't kill a lot of them.
Yeah, it's really, really difficult to actually kill the Roaches with the Phoenix. As you can see, only one went down there. It looks like a second one finally cleaned up. He's got a wall set up here, but he does not have anywhere near enough to defend this base. He's going to have to cancel the third. Cancels the gateways as well, just cancels everything.
And he can snipe the Cybernetics core right now. Trying to do damage, that's what you're going to do. And we already denied the third base, so now everything is going to go well for Violet.
He will absolutely get the core and the Forge. Even going to get some of these gateways. This is looking terrible for Younghwa.
It's really looking bad. He only has one Colossi. He's going to get a Void Ray now. A really smart choice against the Roaches. But he lost his wall. He lost the Forge, he lost the Gateway, and also the Cybernetics core. This is really bad for Younghwa.
The Void Ray, like you said, is a smart choice, but it's really a desperate one because he has nothing else he can make. With his core being gone, he can only do Colossi and one Void Ray. That's all the production he has. Violet, meanwhile, though, is just keeping up the pressure, making it look like he's really going to stick around, but he's actually just going to tech up to those Corruptors with the Spire. His fourth base is ready. Violet, really awesome play here.
Yeah, Violet is not going to throw anything away now. He's not going to commit to any kind of huge attack. He wants to deny the third base for as long as possible, and he's willing to lose Roaches because of it. The Phoenixes are moving in, and they're still with one lift able to take out a Roach. But this is now a scenario where Violet says, like, yeah, I lose a couple of Roaches, but you lose a lot of mining time on a potential third base.
He's totally fine losing a Roach or two. He keeps up the pressure. He wasn't able to kill the Forge the second time. You could see he was thinking about it. But the upgrades are so poor right now for Younghwa. He's only got +1, and he's, you know, his Twilight Council is coming up a little bit late here. Whereas Violet's about to have 1-1, and he can go into 2-2 at any time. He's got all the tech he needs of his Corruptors.
Yeah, he goes into the Corruptor tech now, and he has a fourth base. And those Phoenixes do quite a lot. I mean, that's only a little bit of resource that he loses here, but that is adding up over time. That's why he wants to get those Corruptors out now, that he can finally deal with the Phoenixes. And also, of course, with the Colossi.
Yeah. Some good hits there on the Phoenixes with the Corruptors. The Corruptors are showing. This is looking like a scary army for Violet. I think But he's going to go into the natural. I expect him to go to the third. The Corruptors are going towards the third.
He's just trying to flank this army. He wants to take down the Observer first, and to the right side of the screen you could just see him being taken out. And now the Corruptors might get in to range to get one of those shots off, and that's exactly what happens here.
He goes through the force fields as well. Not enough. Time Warp goes down. The third Colossus appears.
The Time Warp is really good. The Corruptors are trying to take out the first Colossus, but now the Void Rays do a lot of damage.
Yeah, the Void Rays are doing a ton of damage. The Corruptors not able to close the gap on that Colossus. Colossus micros back.
Violet is moving in, but he's losing a lot here. The army positioning for Younghwa is really good, and he's taking out quite a few Zerg units, but there are just so many roaches.
Yeah, the roaches are really the big problem, but just a few Speedlings supporting them, they can do so much. The Void Ray and the Phoenix will clean up the last of the Corruptors, but there's no more Colossi.
And also the units on the ground are now going down. The roaches are moving in once again, taking down Stalker after Stalker. Can move into the mineral line and kill a few of the Harvesters. That's exactly what he does.
That's so smart by him. He could also run into the natural right now. There's no wall. He's got a few Lings, and in they go.
The Lings moving in now. They're going into the main base. This is horrible for
he can
Younghwa.
target the Colossus down. He goes for the probes instead, though.
As long as he takes out the economy, he's going to be completely fine, and that's a lot of losses for the Protoss player for LGIM. 4 bases for Violet,
Oh,
and now the switch
so much.
into Mutalisk. This is brilliant.
Yeah, he's so smart to do this. He knows he's done so much damage to the anti-air. He's killed so many Harvesters already, and it's not going to stop here. More and more probes going down now with the Lings.
Wolf, these Mutalisks, there are 23 of them. They will blindside Younghwa. He has no chance of holding this.
Yeah.
I mean, how many Stalkers does he have in this situation? He only has 2.
2 and 3 Phoenixes, and he just warped in around his Zealots because of the Zerglings. This is going to be the end. When those Mutas get spotted, he may not even fight. He may just type out. He sees him now with the Phoenix. Yeah, that one Muta is gone, sure, but he's got about 20 more to deal with. More and more on the way.
Violet is shooting an arrow towards the heart of Younghwa's defense, and I don't think that the LGIM Protoss will be able to hold here. This is just way too much. The Mutalisks are moving in. Bye-bye Mothership Core. Adios Void Rays, and also those Stalkers should not be able to hold this.
Now, the Stalkers here desperately trying to do something, but he can just fight them. The Phoenixes are being a little bit annoying, but it's not enough to finish off the Mutas, and he's just trading well.
Yeah, he's trading. He has 4 bases.
Yeah.
And there's a 5th base coming up for him. He takes down the Colossus. Even if he loses the Mutalisk, he will still be far ahead of the game.
GG. Violet just swung the hammer on that game. That was pretty solid.
He was aiming for the head, and he took him out. Oh my god, Violet looking good here.
That was epic, what we just saw. I don't even think there's other words for it. It was very, very step-by-step, strong play where he got everything he wanted.
It was a very, very solid performance here. Younghwa did not rely on those 2 base timings, not on a map like Belcher Vestige. He was trying to take his 3rd base, and from the beginning, Violet very aggressive. And it was already looking good for him, but the switch into Mutalisk, that was definitely the winning moment.
Yeah. I'm still wondering about Urai's handkerchief, man. I really don't know. But he's going to make a choice now about which player he wants to send out here against Violet. And will he pick a Terran like we were talking about?
If I was Hirai, I would play a Terran now just because I want to screw with Violet's mind. If there is a Terran out, then Violet will be in a position where, yes, it's only 1 map, but if you're up against 3 Terran players in your next group at WCSNA, then you're always wondering, okay, what do I show now? Does it really matter if I show like one of my best strategies for the map, or should I try to play a little bit more funky, a little bit more careful? That can actually screw their mind quite a bit. And the thing is, like, it's not only that you have to rely on that moment of mind gaming, but at the same time you have such strong players, such strong Terran players in the roster. You would show MVP or Yoda eventually, so why not now?
Yeah, I'm thinking, for me, it's either going to be Yoda, or I think they might actually use Lucira and ZVZ it, because Lucira just has so much ZVZ on his back from playing that Codes group last night. I think that he would be a good choice. But Yoda seems the more obvious one, the more obvious pick, so I think it's going to be one of those 2 players.
I completely agree. I personally would try to play Lucira as late as humanly possible because of the upcoming round of 8 in Codes. You don't know who he's up against, but still that's something where you would... I mean, he has prepared for this matchup, that's 1 point, so he is really, really good and is a player who's very strong at this. On the other hand, you want to just save him a little bit for the individual league if you already progressed this far. So I could definitely see Younghwa. Terrans are doing well against Zerg. that's one of the matchups that he could really go for, especially since there are a lot of reasons why Violet might be a little bit reluctant to show his best builds.
Yeah, Yoda would be a really good choice here. He showed some pretty decent play in his Codes group, had some trouble against the Zerg players there, so that may be one reason that kind of gets into his head a little bit.
And let's not forget about the Protoss players that they have in the lineup. They still can rely on Squirtle. Just to name one example, Yoda is sitting to the top right at the bottom left, though. It's going to be first.
First,
another
an interesting
Protoss
choice. Yeah, just hitting another Protoss here. Really not what we expected.
I could have seen rather a player like Squirtle coming off the bench, but it's first. Also a strong player, no doubt about that.
He must have some sort of special strategy planned. We already saw when Younghwa came out against Boom Boom, he had something planned and he executed it well. I think that first will be something similar to that. And of course the map choice, which we'll find out after a 5-minute break, is going to be really important too.
Yeah, I expected to see Yoda here. We have another Protoss player with first, and it's going to be interesting to see what map it's going to be. You're completely right about this. Before we head into the next match, we have a 5-minute break, and then we are back with the GSTL AZUBU up against LJM here with Color Move.